guys, welcome back again. Today I'm going to be covering something a little bit different. Rather than any specific nation, I'm going to be talking about some more general strategies, specifically how to break into blood magic as a non-blood nation. Now I'm using Middle-Aged Pythium as an example here. This is a nation that has zero access to blood, zero national blood spells, and zero blood mages they can recruit easily anyways. So this is a good example of a nation with no blood access, but showing you how you can maybe break into blood for a little bit more mid to late game magic diversity. Now, blood is a really useful magic path. It has a lot of interesting rituals specifically that can really change your game up. And definitely if someone's not expecting you to bring some blood summons or some blood spells into the game, it can be a little bit shocking for them. Now, I'll come back to this game in a few minutes, but let's specifically talk about blood magic. Now, how can you actually get into blood magic if you don't have any blood recruitables? So I can show you again Pythium. They have a lot of astral mages, but no native blood access and absolutely no blood summons as well. So there's really no way for this nation to get into blood without bootstrapping it. But again, let's move on and talk a little bit more about how you can actually get started in getting into blood as a non-blood nation. So one of the easiest ways to get into blood is finding some kind of independent blood mage. Now these three are the three most common you'll find just around the map. Take a look for some provinces and you might see maybe Jaguar Tribe or Zots or Garnet Sorceresses. And if you see a province like that, you can consider picking it up and forting it or building a temple and or a lab there to start recruiting these guys. Now probably the most common of these three is the Jaguar Tribe. You'll see Jaguar Tribe quite a lot in basically any kind of forest province or sometimes swamp provinces as well. Now these guys do have a chance of blood. Normally they're a nature 1 mage with a 10% random for these 4 paths: fire, water, astral, and blood. Now the blood chance is really small in this case. It's like only about 2.5% chance. So it's a really low percent chance of this guy actually becoming a blood mage. But if you do find a province like that, you can just put a lab there and just pump these guys out every so often. In the game I'm playing as Pythium, I did find 2 Jaguar Tribe provinces nearby and I started recruiting them, but in the whole course of the game I had 0 of them come up with random for blood. Next, most common and probably a little bit better chance for getting blood is the Zots. So these guys are a guaranteed death mage, which is also quite good for getting you into death magic, which is also very useful. And he has a 10% chance for air, earth, or blood. That's about a 3.3% chance for actually getting a blood mage spell. This guy is also a little bit more special because even if he doesn't roll for blood, he has a built-in, I think it's a blood searcher bonus. So if you decide to empower this guy in blood, I think it's only about 50 blood slaves to empower any mage or any commander. He'll be a much better blood searcher without any kind of special equipment like a dowsing rod or something. So consider that if you do find a Zots province, even the ones that don't end up with the blood path could still be useful as just blood searchers if you empower them. The last one, and definitely the most useful independent mage, is the Garnet Sorceress. Now, Garnet Amazon provinces are not very common. Usually you find them in like a desert area, but they are guaranteed bloodfire mages with a random plus 10% chance for another blood, level 2 blood. So if you do find a Garnet Amazon province, try to get that immediately because these are very useful and can pretty much single-handedly break you into blood without really any other effort. Now these 3 are the most common. You'll find these pretty often on the map in varying numbers. Like I said, Jaguar Tribe is really common. Zots are somewhat common in the caves, and Garnet Sorcerers are pretty rare, but you might see a couple provinces of them, maybe like 1 or 2 in a map. Now you have some other recruitable indie mages, but these are tied to specific sites. So here's a few examples of some sites you might find, specifically the Black Tower and the Black Rose Tower. These require death magic to search for them, but if you do find them, they'll let you recruit these mages. For the Black Tower, you can get the Circle Master and Conjurer, who both have blood magic. You can also find these at a site called the Lodge, but that needs blood magic to find. So you have to already have blood to be able to get the Lodge. The next one is the Black Rose Tower. You can get a Black Rose Sorceress, and she has a guaranteed blood path as well. And then the last one is the Ebony Circle and Ebony Tower can give you the Sorcerer. But again, you need blood to actually find these 2, so you won't be able to find them without already having blood magic. This could be a reason to take a little bit of blood in your god. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use my god as a blood searcher. You could. You could use it to get started, get your first amount of slaves rolling in, and then use those slaves to empower some others. But yeah, I feel like it's a little bit inefficient use of your god. Your god could probably be doing a lot more useful things than sitting around blood hunting, especially when you can recruit just tons and tons of independent commanders to do blood hunting for you. A few other sites you might find blood mages, for example, with death magic, death searching, you can find the Academy of Magic or the Dark Academy of Magic. These two Academy of Magics you can find with blood magic. And both of these you can recruit the same wizards, the Archwizard and the Wizard of Dark Arts. And both of these have possible blood magic. Archwizard is guaranteed blood 1, and the Wizard of Dark Arts has a small chance, a 100% chance of these 5 paths. So a fairly small chance of getting a blood path. The next one, this requires blood to find, but it's only blood 1, so if you empower someone in blood 1, you might be able to find this fairly easily, is the Bloodhenge Druid, and he's guaranteed blood 2, which is quite great, because blood 2 mages are just much better blood hunters than blood 1 mages. Another one is Earth 1. If you have an Earth 1 tower, you might find the Thrice-Walled Tower, which is a black sorceress, and she has a fairly small chance of getting blood. So these are all the independent blood mages you could find. A lot of them are tied to specific sites, so I wouldn't really count on finding any of these in the specific game. It's pretty rare to find any of these sites at all. Much more easy to find are these 3, who you'll almost always find at least one province with these in a game. Now let's talk about some commander summons. These 3 are the 3 generic commander summons that don't require blood to actually summon. The first is a Lamia Queen. This is probably the most useful of these 3, and the kind of cheapest as well. It does require Nature 5 and Death 2, which is quite a awkward cross path, and getting up to Nature 5 is really difficult as well. You have to boost yourself up or get some gear like Ivy Staff or something like that to actually get up there. I mean, it's possible, but it requires a bit of work. This gets you a Death 2 Nature 1 mage who has a fairly decent chance of getting blood. You have 2 100% random chances, so 2 25% chances of getting blood. Next is the Tree Lord. One of these 3 Tree Lords you will get is a Blood 1 mage, so that's fine if you want an immobile Blood mage, but it's, you have to cast it maybe 3 times to even get this guy, and he's not that great. He's only a Blood 1, but this is another option. If you have nature magic, you could go for that. The last one is the Aether Gate. Now this is a great summon for getting into a lot of different cross paths, like air, death, astral, blood. He does have a 25% chance of getting a blood path, but the fact that this is like 90 astral pearls is very expensive, so it's kind of dubious in how useful it is. I mean, the Aether Warriors and Aether Lord are all quite good as like units, but it's very expensive to go for this, just for that 25% chance of a blood random. Next, you have some specific blood summons. These you do need blood magic to actually summon. For example, the Curse of Blood is kind of the go-to for breaking into blood. If you have Blood 3 and Death 4, for example, on your god, you can start pumping out Vampire Lords at Blood 8, and these guys are great units. They're immortal, they're amazing thugs, they have a life drain attack, and they're great blood hunters as well. I think they have a blood hunting bonus as well. They also have like a self-healing Reforming the Flesh bonus, and they're stealthy. So these guys not only are just amazing thug units, they're great blood hunters. So you can start pumping these guys out and then blood hunting all over the map with them. But again, this comes pretty late in the game because it's Blood 8. At Blood 7, if you have Earth and Blood crosspath, you can get Father Ill-Earth, and he's a fairly decent blood mage as well, but probably more useful as a thug rather than a blood hunter. Now you have some other blood summons. Now these 2 require blood only, but they're quite high level blood, Blood 8 and then Blood 9, which is very late game. But these get you these kind of demon lords. The Helophagus are 4 unique demon lords, and these all have blood magic with some interesting crosspaths, for example, Blood Death. This is an easy way to get into Vampire Lords if you didn't take Death and Blood on your commander. You can get these 2, the Macabael and Gorlian, who have Blood Death, which will let you get Vampire Lords. The other 2 are either Pure Blood or Blood Fire, which is useful for, I guess, summoning devils and stuff like that. The Demon Lords are all really great, and they give you a lot of different crosspaths, but this is really, really late game. So, I mean, you should already have a good blood economy going. I wouldn't rely on these to be your blood hunters or anything like that. Next we have some blood boosters. So these 5, and there's one more I forgot, but these 5 are the most common blood boosters. There are some artifacts as well, but since they're one of one, you're not going to be able to mass produce them. The Armor of Souls and Brazen Vessel come fairly early, but they're both quite expensive and require blood 5 to be able to make. So you need already a pretty powerful blood mage to even make these. Armor of Twisting Thorns is quite cheap. It only needs blood 3, but also needs the crosspath of nature 2, and it gives you a boost for both nature and blood. But if you have this crosspath available, maybe for example a Bloodhenge Druid, you could boost him up to blood 3 and then nature 2, and maybe he can make this or whatever other situation you have. Last one is the Bloodthorn. This is probably easiest to make. You only need blood 3. It's really cheap, and once you get to construction 7, you can start mass producing these to boost all your blood mages. When you're making empowered blood mages, because if you're not a blood nation, you're going to have to be empowering a lot of units or summoning a lot of mages, it's better to just empower them once and then give them some boosters, like maybe get a blood 1 empowered a blood 1 mage and then give him a Bloodthorn, rather than continuously empower them up to level 2 or level 3 or whatever. Another one is the Ring of Wizardry. This gives you a boost for all these paths. Same with the Robe of the Magi. This gives you a boost for all these paths. These are both quite expensive. They cost a lot to make both of these, but I wouldn't be mass producing these just for blood. But again, these exist if you really need to get high blood on some unit you have. Now let's talk about the special summons. Now specifically I want to look at some of the demon summons. Blood Magic has some of the best summons in the game, and they're all really useful, or at least a lot of them are really useful. I'm not going to talk about every single summon, but just a few of them that I think are quite useful. Specifically, let's talk about the Fiend and the Devil. Now, Fiends of Darkness are pretty useful. They're a little bit weaker than the Devils in general, but they have dark power, so if you're fighting underground or in darkness, these guys will actually be much stronger than Devils. They have 2 attacks with the Poison Claw, and they're stealthy as well, so these guys are also nice raiders. If you pair them up with some stealthy commander, maybe, maybe a Black Servant with some way to give him undead leadership, like I think the Skull Talisman gives him 10 undead leadership, so he can lead a group of these guys and raid around. That could be pretty useful. As for the Devils, these guys are a little bit better in general. Without any buffs, these guys are a little bit better. They have a long weapon, they have the Poison Tail attack, they have a Heat Aura, and their stats are just a little bit better. But the Fiends of Darkness are a bit better if you're willing to buff them up. So it's kind of like one or the other. These are both pretty equal in my opinion. Blood Fiends are a little bit easier to get because you don't need any cross path for fire. And they're a little bit cheaper as well. So I quite like Fiends a lot because they take buffs really well. You can mask them pretty easily with just a ton of blood mages. And they're really easy to get, especially if you don't have access to any kind of cross paths, which as a nation which is trying to bootstrap yourself into blood, any kind of cross paths are not really guaranteed. Next, you have the Frost Fiend and Storm Demon. Both these can serve a similar role, but the Storm Demon is much, much better if you do have this cross path of air and blood. Storm Demons are amazing units. You can get tons and tons of them. They'll fly in the back. They're ethereal. They have a lightning attack, which will stun, and they're just very, very powerful units in general. These are something you should make a lot of. The Frost Fiends are not that great. I would probably not choose them over Storm Demons, but I mean, if you have this cross path of water blood, that's fine as well. The main use for these guys would be specifically targeting mages. They have an AoE frost attack and kind of a fatiguing aura as well, and also like cold aura and cold power, ice protection. So they do well in cold scales as well. These are kind of a little bit more situational than Storm Demons, but they can be useful, especially for maybe attacking mages to fatigue them out and so on, especially against communion mages who really suffer from the fatigue. Last one I want us to highlight is the Demon Knight. This is probably one of the better summons. The Storm Demon and the Demon Knight are probably the 2 best demon summons. Demon Knights are not too special. Basically, they're just, imagine like an Almish Black Knight, except with a big fear aura and a little bit better protection and skills overall. Actually, much better protection, to be honest. So these guys, if you can mask them, they can be really, really amazing. Like they'll tear through an army. Even just a small group of these guys could be like a little running around fear battery. Since they all have this fear aura, they can run around and scare away different units while your main force pushes through. Or as I said, if you have a big force of these guys, they can really cut through a big army. Now I highlighted these 3 as well: Serpent Fiends, Bone Fiends, and Spine Devils. These are kind of the little bit shittier demon summons in my opinion. They're all situational. I'd say Bone Fiends out of these three are a little bit more useful since they're more easy to mass. You can get 5 of them per cast, and they're okay as like chaff. They're like a little bit better long dead, but in my opinion, I think they're not that useful. Spine Devils are also, I don't know, I mean, if you really want them, you can get them. I'd rather get a Fiend over a Spine Devil because they're both pretty easy to cast. They both come with blood too, and Fiends are just like better than Spine Devils because they can fly and they have dark power and they're stealthy. So I don't know if I would ever really get Spine Devils. I mean, they're not too bad, but they tend to just die very quickly and don't really have any upsides that Fiends do. Serpent Fiends, similar idea. They only have 1 attack. They're not that great and probably the worst of these 3. Plus they come at blood 4 and there's just so many better things at blood 4 you can do. Last one I want to look at is crossbreeding, and there's also improved crossbreeding. This is not really a demon, but it lets you summon a big horde of these kind of amalgam, grotesque, foul spawn units. And these can look like anything. There's so many examples. I just picked 3 random ones here. You can get these big, grotesque units, which are quite powerful and strong. And then you have these range of smaller, kind of foul spawn units as well. So it's kind of random what you get. I think in better luck scales and better magic scales, or maybe just luck, you tend to get better units. But this is a good option if you have the Blood Nature Crosspath, just to make a bunch of random chaff, because it's quite cheap as well. Now, last one I want to highlight is the Ritual of the 5 Gates. This is an option to get these other demon summons if you don't have access to crosspaths. Maybe you only have blood magic. This gives you 1 of each of these 5 demons. And, you know, this is pretty decent for the price. I mean, you get 5 units for this. It's kind of random if you don't need to use a certain unit. But like I said, if you really want to get like Storm Demons or Demon Knights or whatever, get a couple of them, and you don't have access to the specific crosspaths, this is probably the only way you can get them. So they do have this use in that way if you want to get some other odd demon options. And summoning this a few times, you can build up a small force of any particular demon you like, and the others are all quite good for different purposes as well. So you're not really losing out by getting some extra demons. Alright, so that's some of the things about blood magic. Let's actually get to the game I was playing and talk a little bit more how you actually get started with boosting your nation into being a blood nation. Alright, so here's the game I was playing as Pythium. Now, the first thing you should consider when you're getting started as like a non-blood nation, trying to get some blood mages going, is you need to blood hunt. Now, the good thing about blood magic is anybody can blood hunt. It's not like for gems where you need the magic path to look for gems. Any commander can blood hunt. You can see some of these provinces, I have tons of commanders all blood hunting. I have a few of them patrolling. This guy should be blood hunting too. The problem is if you don't have blood magic, your blood hunting ability is really poor. I think maybe like you have a 10% chance of finding anything. But you know, if you have enough commanders blood hunting, I'm just summoning, recruiting generic commanders in every province to blood hunt. And then I have a few of them patrolling as well to keep unrest down so I can actually find slaves. But they'll be able to clear out that province. They'll be able to get some eventually. And once you can get at least 50, for example, right now I have 50 blood mages, then you can probably empower one of your commanders or somebody into blood magic. So for example, I empowered this guy, one of my archtherics, into blood magic. I did this specifically for the cross paths. This archtheric has so many cross paths, and I think getting him into blood would be very useful later because I can do a lot of the summons I've mentioned before or cast a lot of interesting blood spells. I'm actually going to boost another one of my archtherics into blood magic as well. So let's actually get this guy to empower himself. Now you can debate who to empower. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. Maybe you could argue this is a bit of a waste of my archtherics. They should be casting spells instead of blood hunting, or they should be researching or whatever. But I do like the cross paths being available, and I just want to get a couple of these guys, a couple of my kind of really broad path archtherics empowered, and then I'll probably devote the rest of my blood slaves to empowering just maybe generic commanders or some generic mages. Now I have also been recruiting these Jaguar tribe guys, and like I said, this whole game I haven't got a single one with a blood random. I got a couple of these guys with a lot of random, but so far none of them with a blood random, which is unfortunate. And I haven't seen any other blood independent tribes yet either. Looking underground, I haven't really been underground yet. I don't really know what's down here. I don't know if there's any place. I see Zabalba here. Is Zabalba even in the game? I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think they are in the game. Oh no, that's middle-aged Zabalba, so that's right. Yeah, they're right here. So they are actually in the game, but I can't get blood magic from their provinces here. Okay, so that's not too much here. Like I said, the main thing with getting into blood magic is just producing tons and tons of independent units. You can spread them all over the place, or you can concentrate them in one province. Here I kind of concentrate them in a few provinces that have big populations. Even though I'm losing income, I just can patrol the province down and grind it down and hopefully get an okay amount of blood slaves. It's really up to you what you want to do. I find it easier to patrol down a couple provinces rather than tons and tons, have them spread everywhere and then unrest building up across the whole empire. So I'm trying to pick a couple provinces to really grind down with decent populations. Even though I'm losing out on the income because of the unrest, it's not too bad. And, this is a sacrifice you have to make to actually get into blood magic or anything like that. Now, when it comes to what provinces to hunt in, usually try to find a province with a population at least 5,000 or more. At 5,000, you get kind of diminishing returns or no increased returns of blood mages. Under 5,000, you get fewer and fewer blood slaves for hunting. So you kind of want 5,000 about the sweet spot. But again, if you want to get lots of hunters going, probably better to go for a bigger province and just pile them all in there with a ton of patrollers as well. So not much else to say about this game. I'm going to be continuing with this one and trying to ramp my way up. Like I said, I'm going to be empowering some of these guys into blood magic. Let's move these guys out. We're going to move these guys into Zabalba here. But yeah, I'm going to be empowering these guys into blood magic. I'm going to keep recruiting these Jaguar guys in hopes that I can get one of them with a blood 1. And also, I'm going to be making some... Can I make this yet? I have construction 5 already. So I should be able to start making some blood items. For example, the Brazen Vessel or the Sanguine Dowsing Rod. What I'm going to be trying to do, I do need a few more blood slaves for this because I just used some to empower. Probably next turn I'll be able to get a couple. I'm going to have my god. I did get blood magic on my god and death, specifically for that blood death cross path, and also for the blesses as well. You can see what my bless is in this game. It's pretty basic. I got poison resistance, I got magic bonus, I got penetration bonus from, I got poison resistance, I got magic bonus, I got the penetration bonus, I have undead leadership, plus 50, so that way my sacred commanders can actually lead demons around. And then I got a bit extra magic leadership, so not much of a bless really there, kind of generic. But specifically this guy's purpose is for research, for casting big spells later in the game, and also for crafting things. So I'm not really having him do anything much else besides that. Either way, I'm going to move on here. And before I end this video, I'm going to also talk about a few other generic blood spells that could be useful to you. Now, there's so many blood magic spells. The useful thing about blood magic is it's all kind of contained in one research tree. So you just have to research blood. If you already have a lot of research, you can research several levels all at once, basically. And again, there's lots of these that are quite useful for you, depending what you want to do. For example, let me get out of here and I'll show you some examples. So as a few other examples, you can have some other commander summons like Bind Archdevil, Bind Ice Devil. These give you these unique summons. Now these are a little bit less useful than the others I mentioned. They do give you some cross paths. For example, the Archdevil, you have a chance to get the Fire Astral guy. Most of these are just fire, but I mean, I don't know, they have some uses if you want them. The Ice Devil, same idea. Most of them are just water. I think one of them is Water Death. Yeah, this guy's Water Death, so I can get you some death magic as well if you want to break into that. But again, of dubious kind of usefulness. You have the Bind Succubus and Bind Incubus. This gives you this commander who's a seducer, a flying seducer, and, dream seduction. So a little bit different from normal seduction. And she can steal a unit and also create some kind of, I don't know what to call it, some kind of like foul spawn sort of baby with whatever unit she seduces. So if you have Glamour, that could be useful as well. Reign of Toads and Wrath of Pazuzu. These two spells cause unrest, and Reign of Toads also causes misfortune. So these are both useful if you have the necessary cross paths of blood and air or blood and nature. Wrath of Pazuzu specifically, for example, if I'm playing Pythium, I know I have big air mages, so this is a pretty easy spell for me to cast and take advantage of my blood magic. A few others that I'm going to highlight are the horror spells. If you have astral blood crosspaths like Pythium does, if I'm boosting blood, you can send a horror or send a lesser horror. Lesser horror is a little bit lower path requirements than this one. Send lesser horror, so a little bit lower path requirements. This is like a remote attack spell. You can attack a remote army or a different distant province. And just the horror sends a big horror, lesser horror sends a small one. Again, just both ways to attack some faraway province using a horror. Ascend horror can wipe out like a huge army. The lesser horror might be able to pick off some PD, but usually will die against a normal or a fairly decent army. You also have Horror Seed. This is kind of like a remote assassination spell, except the target will explode into a horror, and also he'll infect other units with horror, and they will also become horrors. So it's a very like strange kind of remote attack spell. Very cool, but I've pretty much never used it because it's quite late in the game and kind of a little bit dubious in how it works. I'd rather just send horror, to be honest. Last two I'll highlight are another assassination spell, Infernal Disease. This sends a disease demon who's basically like an assassin. He spreads plague as well, so he'll spread disease to the province he attacks and specifically assassinate one commander. And last one is 3 red seconds. This is a way to remotely create a fort, so you can instantly create a new fortress in 1 turn using the spell. Alright guys, and so that's just a quick video about blood magic and specifically breaking into blood magic as a nation without any native blood access. So I hope you liked this, and I'd like to do more similar videos like this in the future. So I'll see you guys again next time. Goodbye guys.